the Department of War is spending over $380 billion across procurement and R&D, and that's not counting what's happening, what's been led in the new acquisition budget cycle that's going. So that tells you immediately that the platforms, they're not in the platform business. We're in a system and life cycle business, right?
Absolutely, because when you think about the DoD, isn't just buying the jets or the missiles; they're buying the mission capability over decades of time. So when you think about a new program coming out that wants to have a new capability, is thinking about the platform integration with other subcontractors, systems, things like that, from a holistic standpoint.
Right. So take the F-35, right? It's $80 to $110 million for the airframe, another $20 million for the engine. You already had, over $120 million, $130 million per aircraft before you even add the weapons onto it, right?
And then when you compare that to weapons, like the JASSM is by itself is like 2.5 or 3 million. And then the PAC-3 interceptor is another 4 million. But you also have some cheaper alternatives to the aircraft, but it's also consumables.
And the missiles are the variable costs, right? And aircraft and integration of the aircraft are the capital investments that got to be about. So a single mission includes not only the aircraft itself, but it all includes the hours, the fuel, the maintenance, the sensors, the C2, command and control, and the weapons about it. So, in that time, it adds hundreds of millions to the mission, right?
And then when you think about integration, that's where the cost could really grow. So integrating software, flight tests, certifications, testing, logistics, and that could run from tens to hundreds of millions of dollars for over like a whole program lifecycle.
Right, and that's why the customer, and in my experience, when we really spend a lot of time with the customers, it's really about what's the total lifecycle cost of this mission, right? And that's where everybody has to begin, right? When they talk about the type of mission, and when we talk about, that's the signal of, can they afford it, and how can they afford it, and is it important they afford it, and then what can we, from industry perspective, where are our marketing signals for us to jump in if that's what we want to do, but also what can we do to help decrease the cost of the mission to the customer, right? And here's another signal for us inside the industry, right? When we'll hear new terms all the time, and Rob, I'll tell you, I live this day to day, right? It's like when the customers start talking about either newer threats or contested environments or new missions, or like things like counter-UAS and that's counter unmanned air systems. How do we deal with that? There's a big push for that, and what they're really saying to industry is, we're going to need new payloads, new software, new integration, new support. And for us, that's the signal. That's the market signal. And that's what drives the growth, right?
Exactly. And from the industry standpoint, they always want to look at, what is the scope of that capability that you want to build, and how long and how fast do you want to build it into the timeline. But from the technical side of things, the multi-domain and standoff are really code for more sensors, more fusion, more integration. So those things all have to be built into that full scope that the industry and the customers need to communicate.
Yeah, other terms that we'll hear is interoperability, right? Or interchangeability. That's a new one that's coming out. And so that tells us and even there talk about, hey, I need this to be designed for exportability. So that also tells us that we are partnering with our, foreign governments or our partner governments or sister governments, and they want the same capability as well. So we need to make sure that they get a version similar to what we have, and that drives it. And from that, if you put all that together, from the business side, you don't win by selling boxes. You win by staying inside the architecture and help shaping that requirement, which is what I do every day. And this is where not only where the margins live from a business perspective, but it's also where you start hearing and knowing, go through those analysis alternatives to understand what the customer really needs to hit the mission, and what is the art of the possible from a technology standpoint, and then what we can go deliver and drive as fast as we can and get it to the warfighter.